seeing our logo there? Cool. So, hello everyone, I'm Dan Orzek. I'm the general manager of the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative, and I'm going to talk about community solar. Oops. So we were formed in 2015 to do two things. Primarily, our goal, our mission is to increase the amount of renewable energy in the state of Oregon. But our means to that end is through community. So specifically, allowing community members to invest in projects in their community, renewable energy projects in their community. And when I say renewable energy, we've been looking for years for the right small wind project or micro hydro project or biogas digester project. But solar is my background, and that's what we've done to date, and probably what we will be doing for the foreseeable future. So we are statewide. I am based in Corvallis. I'm a Corvallis native, but we, as you will see, hopefully, definitely have a statewide focus. So, what is community solar? Well, that is a tough question to answer because it's kind of community solar is one of those terms, kind of like sustainability. Well, what the heck does that mean? It means a lot of different things in a lot of different contexts. So I'm going to try to explain that a little bit. But basically, you can think of community solar as solar panels that are not on your roof and where there's more than one person, a community involved in putting them up or benefiting from them or financing them. In Oregon, there are three different types of community solar. We're going to ignore number three. You may be aware that Oregon has 30-some utilities, and about a third of the state is served by what they call consumer-owned utilities. So those are the rural electric co-ops and the municipal utilities like EWEB and Eugene. Some of those, about a half a dozen, have their own small community solar programs. The only one that's really worth paying attention to is Ashland, who's really done some really progressive stuff. So we're not going to talk about those. One thing I will say is generally, Ashland, again, being exception, generally the way those are structured are you pay more to participate in them than you would pay for regular electricity. So let's start with number one, which is something that we pioneered in Oregon. And we call that community financed or co-op solar. So what that is based around putting solar on a community organization. And what is a community organization? Well, for us, because we're a cooperative, and I think of cooperatives as kind of like B Corps before they were B Corps. That includes educational institutions, schools, universities like OSU, local governments. We're up to our fourth project in Hood River. Faith-based communities. And this is a partial listing here, somewhat random sample. We're up to about 30 projects around the state. So this is not a complete listing. And nonprofits. And then lately, we've also started doing a few sort of similarly minded, shall we say, sustainably minded businesses. And the first one is Block 15 Brewing in Corvallis. Now, we're a very small, very lean organization. I'm the only full-time employee. And so everything we do is in partnership with other organizations around the state, primarily nonprofits. And the way I think about this is it comes back to the notion of community. So we're a community-based organization, and we accomplish things for the community in partnership with other community organizations. We've done a lot with the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition, and in fact, we created a co-branded, what we're calling Solarize Corvallis, and we put up, gosh, I don't know what the number is. I think we're up to about 8 different projects in Corvallis together with the Sustainability Coalition. We're doing projects with Solarize Rogue, Recology. If you're from Southern Oregon, you'll recognize their name. They're the waste disposal company down there. Talk a bit more about that project later on. We've been partnered with Solar Oregon from the beginning. Seeds for the Soul. We've done two projects together with OSU and the Environmental Center in Bend, and a few others. I ran out of room for logos here. Sustainable Northwest, we've been partnering with for a long time, and a few others. So how does it work? You have to be an Oregon resident to participate. And if you're an Oregon resident, you can join the co-op, and then you can invest in a project. And what we find is a lot of times people will join to invest in a particular project, maybe their kid's school or their church, and then they will continue and invest in multiple projects. I think in terms of numbers of projects invested, our person out in front is the former mayor of Corvallis, who just retired, who's invested in every project we've done in Corvallis to date. So we then take those funds and we aggregate them. We call that crowd vesting. You're familiar probably with crowdfunding, which is donations. This is not donations, this is investing. We take those investments, we put them together, and we add tax credits and other sources of funding, and we build a solar project. And that then generates energy savings, right? Or reducing your electric bill. And from that source of revenue, the co-op members get paid back their original investment. Typically that takes 10 years. And after that point, I think I've got a graph later on, but savings, which over the 10-year period are shared essentially with the co-op members, with the investors, the savings go way up for the community organization. From the perspective of the individual member or investor, one share of stock is $1,000. I think our average investment nowadays is about $7,000 or $8,000. Typically, we pay back each year, part of it, and typically it takes 10 years, sometimes 12 years to do that. We started out a few years ago paying 2% interest each year, raised that a few years ago to 4%. And then we realized that people have different motives for investing, and they're not all purely financial in these projects. And so we started asking people, or letting people tell us what kind of return they wanted. Some people said, up to 4%. Some people said 4%. At least one person said 0%. They just wanted to get their principal back. We couldn't figure out how to actually write the stock paperwork for 0%, so we paid them 1%. But I think what you see from this is that what we're doing is not, clearly this is not just a financial investment. This is an investment in the community, investment in the planet. I call it impact investing on the individual level. I'm not going to talk about why to go solar. I'm assuming you probably all are pretty familiar with this, but I do want to call your attention to number 4 here, because this sort of community financing approach really offers a unique opportunity for people to interact with, create a new type of relationship with, if you will, with an organization, whether that's a church or a school or a business. Because if you think about it, there are lots of opportunities to donate money to put, say, solar up on the roof of your church or your kid's school, but not to invest. So this is kind of a unique opportunity to create a new relationship with people in the community. And for example, I showed you the Block 15 Brewing Company project. Well, some of the people who invested in that project were employees. Some were family members of the founders. Some were simply people in the community who wanted to do help put up more solar. Other people were customers, big fans of the beer, the company's beer, who got super excited when they saw that they could actually invest in solar for the project, for the company. Okay, so from the organization's perspective, what does it look like? So this is one project that, well, I guess we're just announcing it now. We're just about to do for the food cooperatives in Corvallis, called First Alternative Food Co-op. And I just wanted to show you this as kind of an example of one of the different approaches to financing. So I like to say we'll take money wherever we can get it. The basis of most of our projects is, on the left here, you can see about a third coming from community members. But we're also taking a little bit as donations. And then any project in Pacific Power or PGE territory gets an energy trust grant. They call it an incentive. And then this is the tax benefits. So the food co-op, First Alternative, is a business, although they're a co-op. And so they pay taxes, and so they can take advantage of these tax credits. And depending, they can range in value to cover anywhere from half to 2/3 of the cost of a solar project. So for a business, that's kind of a no-brainer. The government will pay 2/3 of the cost of putting solar panels on your roof, and then we can come in with the rest. Now, what if you're a church or a nonprofit? You don't pay taxes. Well, the Biden administration last summer, with the Inflation Reduction Act, introduced a major change to the tax code for solar, which now allows non-tax-paying entities, nonprofits, governments, to take the tax credits. Not all of the tax credits. So this is actually two different types of tax credits. I'm not going to go into that, but depreciation and a tax credit specifically for solar. So if you're a church or a nonprofit, you can actually get a check from the government for 30% of the project cost. Everyone in the solar industry is still waiting to hear exactly what the mechanism of that is, but it's in the law, so we know what's going to happen. The other change that's noteworthy is if you're a business and you don't have that much tax liability, you can now easily sell those tax credits or transfer them to someone else. So what does the cash flow look like for a project like that? Well, I mentioned in the beginning that you're sharing, from an organization's point of view, you're sharing some of your savings with the community. And then once they've gotten their payment back, then your savings go way up. Solar panels nowadays are warranted for 25 years. So we run the numbers out to 25 years, but no moving parts. There's no reason why they won't last for longer than that. So who knows how much money you'll actually save. And of course, it's not all financial for the organization as well. So you're not only saving money, but you are saving the planet. And it's easy to forget that in Oregon, regardless of whether you're in Pacific Power territory or PGE territory, you're still getting more than half of your power from fossil fuel plants out of state. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is another benefit. I'm not going to go into this in depth, but there's a growing number nationally of power outages. And so one of the things we're doing is starting to put in small battery systems so that if there is a power outage, the organization will probably not be able to run entirely as if they had good power, but still be able to be up and running to some extent. This is actually First Alternative Food Co-op. We've written a grant to put in a large amount of batteries there, waiting to hear about it. They, one of their stores, a couple of years ago, the power went out. The local substation had a fault in the transformer. It took the utility close to a week to get it out. During that week, their refrigeration went hot, went warm, and they lost tens of thousands of dollars worth of food. So there's great value in adding storage, energy storage, to solar systems. All right, let's move on to what's typically called community solar. I like to call it community solar with a capital C, because as we see, there are multiple different approaches to community solar. But this is the community solar program that the legislature enacted a few years ago, and that is only applicable to the investor-owned utilities, the large utilities in Oregon, which are PGE, Pacific Power, and Idaho Power. So what does that look like? In Oregon, it's a little hard to understand. We have to talk a little bit about energy policy to understand how community solar works. So let's forget about electricity for a minute and think about milk. So you want to drink some milk, you go to the store and you buy it. The store, of course, is a distributor. It doesn't actually, it's not the dairy, right? There's no cows there. So you actually are dealing with two completely separate entities. You're dealing with a producer, that's the dairy, and you're dealing with the store and the transportation system, which gets you the milk. Not only that, but nowadays you can go to the store and you've got lots of choices when it comes to milk, right? You can get lactose free, you can get grass fed. So let's think about that now in the context of electricity. So why is it hard to understand the concept of community solar in Oregon? It's because in Oregon, unlike other what they call deregulated energy states, which are about a dozen, including Illinois, Texas, New Jersey. So in Oregon, we put together those two roles, the dairy and the store. So in this case, the producer is, we call that the utility, right? PGE, Pacific Power. And they are also the wires, right? They transmit the electricity to you and deliver it. Now, in other states, that's not the case. These are completely separate entities. So the utility is just the wires, and what they call an independent power producer produces the power. So I'm going to actually stop for a moment here and share what that looks like in a state where it's more easily understood, which is Pennsylvania. So this is, as you can see, this is the official website of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, just like we have in Oregon. And if you want to shop for electricity, here are those two roles. These are the utilities. All they do, they're just the wires, all they do is distribute the electricity, move it from point A to point B. And here is your choice of electricity suppliers. All right. Now you can tell just by looking at the names, some of these are probably, traditional fossil fuel suppliers. Some of them are probably solar and or wind. But the point is lots of choices. So we don't have that in Oregon. And community solar is, if you will, a move in that direction. So let's see here. See if we're back in the right place. Oh dear. All right, bear with me a second. We'll flip through this. I want to quickly get back to. All right, so community solar, as I said, is putting solar somewhere else and sharing it with a community of other people. The utilities in Oregon are required. They are not the ones, again, who own the solar panels or are putting them up, but they are required to transmit the electricity. And what that looks like in practice is not the electrons, but credits. So on your bill, if you sign up for a community solar project, you will get credits, regardless of where that community solar project is located. You will get credits on your bill, just like the solar was on your roof. Our first project was in partnership with Solarized Rogue down in Southern Oregon. And here's a picture of what it looks like. Now, when you look at this, what do you see? Looks like a solar project, right? Well, it's not. It's actually two completely separate solar projects. So there's a community solar project here, and right next to it, that's this one here. This is actually a community financed project like I was showing you earlier. There are pros and cons, disadvantages, advantages to both different approaches. Community solar, one disadvantage, if you will, is you can't put a battery on it. So we actually built this one and we put a battery on it. So if this building, is in Talent, a few miles outside of Ashland, and the Shakespeare Festival has designated it as their emergency backup building if Ashland is, if their offices in Ashland go dark. So this building will have some power, at least, because we put a battery on the solar project. So here is a community solar project on a roof. There's not enough large roofs in the state to put up community solar for everyone who wants. So where do you put it? Well, it's probably going to go on the ground somewhere. And that means increasingly around the country, it's going to run into conflict with land use laws because, and public sentiment, if you will, because the easiest place to put solar is on farm ground. So more and more you're seeing pushback against large solar projects from communities, farming communities in particular, who are saying, well, we want to keep our land in farming. So around the world, people are saying, well, that is really a red herring argument, because you can not only, you don't have to replace farm ground with solar, you can combine them. So I'm going to show you what we're doing in partnership with the Oregon State College of Agriculture in that regard. But first, just to give you a sense, there's two general approaches to what's called agri-solar or agrivoltaics, which is combining solar and farming. So one approach is you put it up above the farm operations, and the other approach is you farm in between them. So this is, you may have, if you have been on the OSU campus and been down what's called the Campus Way bike path to the Covered Bridge, you may have seen this solar project. This is the first research that the College of Agriculture did. And what they found, not surprisingly, is that these lambs preferred to be in the shade of the solar panels. So it was both cooler in the summer and, again, not surprisingly, the grass stayed greener. So this is pretty significant. And this is some of the research results. If you're interested, you can take a tour of our project together and learn more. But more greenery, right? Stuff grows better, and it needs a lot less water. So why is that significant? Because drought, right? So in large parts of the West, still, even after last winter, there is a shortage of water. And so if you can grow stuff with less irrigation, it's pretty significant. So this project here was an existing solar array that OSU put some sheep under and compared sheep and non-sheep conditions, if you will. But it's what Professor Chad Higgins, our partner, our research partner at OSU, calls an experiment of opportunities. So there was an existing solar project, and they figured out a way to do some research on it. What we are doing now is we built a specifically an intentionally designed research project, solar project, to allow OSU to do research. This is at the OSU Extension Farm in Aurora, just south of Wilsonville. If you know where Charbonneau is, it's across the street from that. And Peter Greenberg, who's here on this call, is the man who's responsible for those solar panels getting into the ground there. This is what it looks like. This is the design. And you can see here, so if we were just to put up a conventional solar project, it would just be filled with solar panels. But what we did was we spaced it out, so there are these control areas. So what OSU was doing, they started last fall, was planting crops between the rows. And these are wide enough to get a tractor between. And then the same crops here. So they'll be able to compare. And in fact, one of the things we're thinking about doing, we're planning on having a kickoff event or a ribbon cutting, I guess, probably in June. And one of the things we're thinking about doing is having a blind taste testing. So if you want to come and taste stuff that was grown between the solar panels and in the control areas, we want to see if people can actually taste the difference. So being a university, college, of course, it wouldn't have been a college project without a party. So this was our groundbreaking party. So this is an agrivoltaics research project, but it's also a community solar project. So we are busy signing up people. You have to be a customer of PGE to sign up for this project, but we're busy signing up people, and potentially churches and a synagogue in Portland who want to participate, to take the power in this project, again, as credits. We're doing this at a 12.5% discount to utility rates. There are commercial solar developers who are doing projects. I believe their standard is 5%. Again, an example of why, our focus being the community, we're looking to give back as much as we can. So this is our second community solar project, and we are now working as fast as we can to do more of them. So I'm going to show you a few examples. We have one more in PGE that I am not going to show you. So these are all in Southern Oregon. This we're calling Oregon Pear Community Solar, and it's going to be a replication and extension of the project you just saw, which we call Solar Harvest. So it's at the OSU Extension Center in Jacksonville, and they do research there on wine grapes. And that fellow in the lower right there is Alec Levin. He's the wine grape expert there, and he's also now the center director. And pears. So we're going to put solar panels above the pear orchards and the wine grapes. And then we're going to do what we did at Solar Harvest on this field here, and just put rows of solar panels, and they're going to plant various crops. This is another project, Valley View Community Solar. This is the Rogue Valley. I think this is Ashland here, and Talent is over here somewhere. So you can see why it got its name. The reason this one is significant is it is going to be 100% dedicated, the benefits of it, if we can, 100% dedicated to the residents, particularly low-income residents of Talent, City of Talent. You may be aware that 2 years ago, 40% of the City of Talent burned. It's just gone. And they're rebuilding as rapidly as they can, but they're still under pretty severe economic pressure. So, yeah, 10% of every community solar project has to go to low-income residents. And we're going to see if we can do this project with grants and other sources of funding where it's 100% going to low-income residents. Another project in the Medford-Jacksonville area. It's going to be on the left-hand part of that field you see in the bottom there. Used to be in cannabis, but that industry has taken a dive in Southern Oregon. And the plan there is to support bee colonies and pollinator habitat. So we don't know exactly what that will look like, but we're calling it Oregon Wildflower. I was just on a call this evening with an OSU researcher who specializes in restoration, native habitat restoration. So we're going to see what we can do to encourage bee and pollinator habitat there. And I think that is it for my presentation. So I will stop there and happy to dive into anything you want to talk more about.
I think I put it there in the chat for you, Dan. I had received a question from one of our attendees just before the presentation. I can put that.
Okay, yeah, I saw it come in. So let's see here. So are there any modular designs these days for covered parking, solar carports, we call them, ideally combined with electric car charging, that would be scalable for small to large businesses? It would provide car chargers, solar power, and coverage from rain for pedestrians all in one. Seems like it'd be a great idea to implement around here. Well, it is a great idea. The problem is, if you think back to the solar panels in New England that are elevated, right? So you have to get them above a car, you got to get them up 14 feet. And that's expensive because you have a lot more steel in the ground and crosswise supporting those solar panels. So we've tried twice to make those projects pencil in Oregon, once in Salem and once for the fire station in Talent, actually. And we just couldn't make it happen. Where you see it is all over California and the Southwest. In fact, one of the airports, I forget which one, but one of the airports in the Southwest has in their parking lot, they've got solar panels providing shade, and that's premium parking. They charge more for that. So it makes a lot of sense. The problem is, so why is it happening there, not in Oregon? Because A, they have more sun, and B, power prices are double or triple what they are in Oregon. So it's easier to make a project like that pencil out financially. We have not given up. We're working on a project actually right now for a wine resort, I guess you'd call it, in Dundee, in the Oregon wine country, where the owner really wants to go green. And we're working with him on a solar carport that would actually be built on wood, so hopefully cheaper than metal, on wood, like telephone poles, basically. The other thing that we're looking at, and I didn't show you pictures of this. So there's a company in Ashland called Stracker Solar, like tracker with an S in front, which has been building solar on towers. So it's still expensive because they've got this thick tower with lots of steel in it. But the advantage is, A, that it's up above 14 feet up, so it's above cars and tractors and parking, etc. And the solar panels rotate, so they produce more power. So we actually we're hoping to do, well, we actually just got funding to do 2 of those right along Highway 97 in Warm Springs on the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs Reservation. They're doing a really cool project there that we're doing the solar for, where they have repurposed an old Bureau of Indian Affairs building, and they're going to turn it into a business incubator for tribal members. So it's going to be a net zero building, and when we looked at the solar, there wasn't enough room on the roof for it. So we're going to put 2 of those trackers right alongside Highway 97, and hopefully some of the 8,000 some cars that drive past there every day will stop and pull off and eat lunch there and learn what the tribes are doing. So yeah, so we keep trying, and hopefully in a few months we'll know whether we're successful at either of those approaches. But it is hard to do.
I think the next question up, Dan, is from Marge Stevens. Can you talk about the difference between the Oregon Shines and the Clean Power Co-ops? I guess that's the community solar, the 2 community solar programs.
Yeah, sure. So not 2 different community solar programs. So there is the Oregon Community Solar Program is created by the Oregon legislature and run under the auspices, under the guidance, if you will, of the Oregon PUC, Public Utility Commission. And there are a bunch of players, a bunch of companies who are participating. Oregon Shines is one. There are only a handful of community-based groups who are participating in community solar. That's an unfortunate byproduct of the fact that the program is, let's just say, ridiculously complicated, much more complicated than I think it needs to be, the community solar program. So really the only non-commercial solar developers who are participating are us and Bonneville Environmental Foundation, and then our partners such as Solarize Rogue, who we're working on projects together with. So who is Oregon Shines? It's a company. It's run by a friend of mine, owned by a friend of mine, lives in Portland. And they're simply a solar developer, commercial solar developer. And what they've done is put up community solar projects, and they are allowing people to participate, to buy the power from it. So what's the difference? Couple of differences. One is they're providing a 5% discount. So if you sign up, you get your power from solar at a 5% less than you would if you were buying it from the utility. We're doing it for our first project that you saw, Solar Harvest. We're doing it at 12.5% less. You know, we hope to do that or have that number as large as possible on all of our projects. So that I think reflects the other large difference, which is although their projects, and I'm not just talking about Oregon Shines, but the other commercial companies as well, their projects are community solar, I would ask, where's the community in the community solar? So if you think back to Pennsylvania, they're just another energy supplier, right? And in Oregon, we limit that to solar suppliers, energy suppliers. But there's really no community to their projects. So our projects are all based around the concept of community in some fashion or another, whether that's a specific community like the City of Talent, or, we're working right now with the Environmental Center in Bend on a project for Central Oregon, or whether it's, an agrivoltaics research project, which has sort of a different community. There is, for all of our projects, that is the guiding philosophy. Yeah, so there's another piece, but I'll save it. So I think that kind of captures the differences, the important differences. All right, let's see. Is this the next question? Hybrid use of solar PV and heat pumps. Well, let me make sure I didn't. Yeah. No, we don't, but we actually just referred one of our project sites in Portland, a church, so it makes sense to reduce your energy use before you put up solar. And we don't do that per se, but we encourage the organizations we work with to do that, and we will help you connect to resources if we can. The starting place for that is either Energy Trust or heat pumps. Julie's on here, so the Seeds for the Soul are really the heat pump gurus. So particularly if you're looking at your own house, I would start by talking to them.
Go ahead, Marge. Marge has her hand up.
Yeah.
Thanks. This is actually Mike Beilstein.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I was, I did see a presentation from Oregon Shines on their program, and as I understood it, to participate in Oregon Shines, you sign up for it. There's no investment required to participate. You simply, ask to participate, and then you get, it's guaranteed your electricity is going to be supplied from renewable sources, and you get a 5% reduction in your utility bills, your electricity bills. Now, so is the community solar that you're describing, you're saying a 12% or 12.5% reduction in the value,
Yep.
but it's also there's no investment required to participate.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Now we actually have more options.
Okay, so
Did you
so
have
you
more,
don't-
Mike, or?
you don't actually get an investment in power that's being produced by or for you. What you're getting is just, you're getting a guarantee that some solar power will be installed and that you're going to get a reduction in your bill. Is that? But it's not like, if I participate in it more, I get more electricity. All I get is a reduction in my bill. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. So go back to Pennsylvania, right? What you're doing is buying your power or milk. Instead of buying, regular milk, you're buying the grass-fed organic stuff. You're switching your supplier. In this case, you're switching your supplier of electricity from PGE or Pacific Power to Oregon Shines or us.
Yeah.
And we're offering it cheaper. We're offering it cheaper than Oregon Shines, but they're still offering it cheaper than the utility. So that is the standard model for community solar around the country, right? And we're offering that. So the Solar Harvest project I showed you will be that approach. The Oregon Pair project will be that approach. Valley View Talent Project will be that approach. All the subscribers there, we expect, will be low-income residents of Talent, but it's the same approach. Now, there's a piece that's missing here, right? Which is, how do you pay for those solar panels in the first place, right? Someone's got to pay to put them up. So what Oregon Shines has done is they sold their projects to I don't remember who they sold those particular projects to, but they sold them to some solar investment firm, or you could go to a bank and get a loan. We do that same thing by going to the community. So Solar Harvest, where do we get the money to put it up in the first place? So we can offer these, they're called subscriptions when you're buying the power. We went to the community, and there's actually people on this call who invested in that project. So they are just like it was a church or a school. They bought shares of stock in that project, and they will earn a return over 10 years. That project, we also got a grant from PGE, and we had an investment from the Roundhouse Foundation, which is based in Sisters, and who is very interested in supporting rural Oregon, and therefore very interested in supporting agrivoltaic research. So we will finance some of our projects, some of our large community solar projects, that same way. And we're going to need your help because they are larger than the projects we've been doing. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but like actually I can pull up the pie chart here. The project I showed you for the food cooperative in Corvallis, we're going to have to raise $103,000 from community investors. For the projects that you saw in Southern Oregon, like the Oregon Pear Project, that's going to be more like $1 million, $1.5 million to build it. And then we can offer subscriptions to people. So we're going to be going out statewide and raising a lot more money that way. Now, that's one approach. Another approach, which we pioneered with our partners, Solarize Rogue, down in the Rogue Valley in Jackson County, is a different approach. That approach is, we call it the ownership approach. And that approach is, instead of buying solar panels and putting them on your roof, you buy solar panels and you put them up in a community solar project together with a bunch of other people. So the difference there is you put the money up front, and then you get you still get the same credit on your bill, but it takes you however many years it takes to pay it back, just like they were on the roof of your house. You also get the tax credit, right? There's a 30% tax credit for solar now. So what are the advantages to doing that? Well, community solar allows you to put up solar, either approach actually. If your roof is not good, like our house, we have too many trees, can't put solar up on it. So you could still buy solar panels and put them somewhere else. Another advantage is it's cheaper. It's kind of intuitive if you think about it. Rather than climbing on the roof of 100 houses, you can put solar for 100 houses in one place all at the same time. That's going to be cheaper. You get economies of scale. Another advantage is if you need, let's say you need 10 solar panels in Portland to meet your house's load, right? But if those solar panels are in Klamath Falls, let's say, or Medford, where there's a third more sun, you may only need 7 solar panels. So you can sign up for community solar project that's located in Southern Oregon, even if you live right along the Columbia River, and you only need 2/3 of the solar panels, so 2/3 of the cost. So that's the ownership approach. Downside, of course, the downside, of course, or the may not be for everyone, is you have to put up that money up front. Now, we do have financing available through a credit union, but still, some people may not want to have any cost up front. They just want to lower their electric bill and shift to solar. So, sorry, Mike.
Julie's
with
had
the
her
ownership-
hand up. Mike, let's give Julie a turn. She's had her
Okay.
hand up for a
Yeah.
while.
Hi.
Okay. Thanks.
I have a question about our grid. Does it have a capacity limitation when forecasting for future community solar projects? And also, I really like the method for aggregating true community solar projects. And my worry is that really deep-pocketed investors can suck up all the grid space and all the land to do these kind of projects, and then the simple people don't have a shot. So there's about 3 questions in there, Dan, and I can repeat as you go. The first one is,
Okay, yeah.
Grid capacity, are there limitations?
Yes, it's absolutely an issue. And it's kind of connected to your second questions, which is that because the commercial solar developers have more money than we do, they were able to get a head start. And that's why, Oregon Shines, for example, has projects that are ready right now, and we're still probably a year away. So they were able to grab a lot of the capacity, and we're, I don't want to say scrambling, but we're looking, and we're getting more creative. So we're looking, a lot of almost everything we do is in partnership with organizations. So, we're getting the land from OSU. We have another project I didn't mention with the city of Medford, getting the land from the city of Medford. We're not paying them anything for that. So that's how we're getting around that problem, but it is definitely a problem. I got 2 calls in the last 2 or 3 days from people who wanted to put up solar, and for both of them, there is, as far as we can tell, there's not capacity on their local, put up community solar, right? On a large scale project, and there's not capacity on the local grid. So it's an issue. Absolutely. Okay, number 2, Julie, remind me. Oh, you're muted.
You did just answer it, but it did percolate one other thought. Just how much is out there? Like, how many projects can there be? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so the Oregon Community Solar Program is 180 megawatts. Most of the capacity in Pacific Power is already taken. PGE still has lots of capacity, which reflects the fact that land is more expensive and it's harder to site projects. There is, if you just look at the raw numbers, there's plenty of capacity on the grid in Oregon to put up all that and more community solar. The problem is, like there's a substation in downtown Portland. You're not going to put up a solar project there. So, that's capacity that's not usable. So it's hard to find a place where there's both available land and capacity. So that's the challenge we deal with. And we're always looking for sites.
All right.
Did you get your questions answered, Julie? Are we
I
ready
think
to
I
move on?
did. Yes, please. Thank
There's
you.
a question in the chat from Melissa. What's the prospects for the new solar tile roofing technology? Will that be a feasible option for more homeowners and businesses down the road versus panels?
Yeah. So I'm not a huge expert on that. I can tell you that the technology is actually not new. I first looked at it from, what's that? There's a large roofing company actually in Pennsylvania, drawing a blank, but they had a product out 10 years ago. So Tesla, of course, came out, 2 years ago with their solar tile technology. I don't have any direct experience with it. My understanding is it's expensive. It really only makes sense if you need to replace your roof or you're putting up a new roof. Looks pretty cool. So that's about all I can tell you on that.
Here's I think a key question. Are there any projects in the works that are available to Pacific Power customers in Corvallis? And I guess that would be either from Oregon Shines or from the co-op.
So I'm looking at the placement of the comma there, and you can read this question 2 ways. You can read it, are there projects available to Pacific Power customers who happen to live in Corvallis, or are there projects in Corvallis that are available, obviously, to Pacific Power customers? So let me answer both questions. There are some Oregon Shine projects that are available now to Pacific Power customers. Our projects, the ones I showed you, are still in development. Depends on a bunch of stuff, primarily on the utility, how long they take, and then of course on, you know, how long it takes to do construction. So we don't know exactly when they'll be ready. Probably about a year from now, we're hoping the first ones will come online. Community solar in Corvallis, I don't want to say wasted. I've spent countless hours looking for locations in Corvallis. There's an ideal location, which you all probably drive by regularly, which is at the wastewater treatment plant. So if you drive, you know, from Circle to downtown on the highway there, on your left, right, is that large field. It's about 15 acres. It has some solar panels in it right now, and we've been bugging the city for a couple of years to put community solar project there, but City of Corvallis Public Works doesn't seem interested. So yeah, we keep looking for projects in Corvallis. It's, you know, it's a little challenging because there's less sun than there is in Southern Oregon, but it's great to be able to, you know, to be able to look at your solar panels and your community solar projects. So if we can do it, if we can find a spot to do it, we'll do it. How do you sign up? So we are taking names right now for people who are interested. We have a sign up list on our website. So if you go to our website, there's a tab that says community solar. We have to get it up more obvious, but there's a community solar page, and there is a link there to a form where you can put your name down, and we will let you know as soon as project is available. As I mentioned, we have a project right now for people who get their power through PGE.
There's a follow-up question from Mike up a bit in the chat. With the ownership model, does the owner receive full credit for the kilowatt hours produced by the?
Yeah, good question, Mike. So the answer is yes. You own those panels. They just happen not to be on your roof. So they show up on your bill just like they were on your roof. So you get all the power they produce. You get the tax credit for them. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Christy. Christy just posted that link there. So I see I'm happy to keep talking indefinitely about this, but I see we're at about the hour. So maybe if there's one more question, we might have time for that. All right. Well, thank you all for your interest and support for community-based renewable energy. I know there's a couple of people on this Zoom who have invested in various projects we've done. I appreciate that.
We
Well,
appreciate you, Dan.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dan. I
Julie.
appreciate it very much, and I appreciate everybody who participated. Thanks for being here. It was a pleasure, and hopefully many of you can join us again for the session tomorrow evening. Thank you all.
And Christy, or will someone, Michael, will you tell us what the remaining sessions are this week?
Yeah, tomorrow we'll have Julie Williams of Seeds for the Soul talking more about residential solar and other energy efficiency opportunities at home. Thursday we'll have Brian Lee of the Corvallis Carbon Offset Fund. And on Friday, Julie will be back with Michael Hughes to wrap up our week.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
All right. You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Have a good
Thank
night.
you all. Thank you very much. Good night,
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you. Bye.